Boxing King Media. We're back here for episode 36 of the Brutally Honest podcast. So much has happened in the last couple of weeks, Dom. We caught up on Zoom, so we've got a lot to go through today, so we're going to fly through some of the subjects. But how are you doing? You keeping well? Weather's nice?
Yeah, lovely weather. Just come back from Thailand. Had 2 guys fighting out in Thailand. Came back at the weekend, so just catching up from that. But back into the sunny weather.
You know, no one's going to believe you if you said that you've just been to Thailand because you've had 2 guys fighting.
They're not going to believe me. Oh, have I been for something else? Have I been for one of them £2.50 foot massages on the beach? What you had? Is that what you're saying?
Possibly, yeah.
There's no beach in Bangkok, unfortunately.
There isn't. But you had a good time though, yeah?
Yeah, steady boxing, innit?
Good stuff. I see you've been posting stuff about clean eating again. Are you cutting weight?
Well, I always put stuff out when it comes to the summer. Get a lot of. It's surprising how many people don't. I get a lot of clients coming to me and they're watching all the stuff on Instagram and social media where people are talking about carnivore diets, vegan diets, fasting, and there's so much confusion out there, and it's just people selling a method. And I always say to the clients I get, it's not that the diets that don't work. It's the people that don't work. It's just that certain diets suit certain people. And it's like if you're a person who drinks alcohol, it's the difference between a wine drinker, a lager drinker, a spirits drinker. People prefer certain types of alcoholic drinks, and it's the same with dieting. Some diets suit other people better than others, and I think sometimes it takes people, a lot of time to find one what's suitable for them. Because all diets do work if they're done properly, and the client sticks to it. So I tend to get to the summer and start posting healthy food. People want to get in shape for the summer. It just gives them a bit of an idea. Some people contact me and away they go. Beach body ready in 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah, and like always, I'll put up the email address where they can contact you, because Dom is still doing a bit of diet stuff on the side for his illustrious clients. If you check Dom's Instagram out, there's some crazy transformations on.
Well, you've watched what is it, Mobland? Is it? Have you watched Mobland yet?
I haven't seen it.
Paddy Considine. He's a big boxing fan. Been in this gym, done boxing. He's been on the programme for the last, I think, 8 weeks, dropped about 1.5 stone, looking really well. He's got a lot of filming coming up, so he's got to get in shape, better shape. But I'm sure, the viewers will have seen Mobland, a great series. Everybody's saying that the accents aren't great though, but the acting's good. Well,
if you see Paddy in terrific shape, you know what it's down to. A lot's happening in the world, Dom, boxing world, and even in the outside world. In fact, if you're looking at the random subject I want to speak to you about first, it's an interesting one. Did you watch Khabib, the UFC fighter, on? He was at the Champions League the other week.
Oh, is it when he's supposed to?
He basically forgot her name now. Malik Scott's missus, Kate Abdo. Yeah, so she went in to shake his hand. And he basically,
I saw that, yeah.
He didn't shake her hand out, obviously, out of his own religious beliefs, etc., not touching women that are he's not in a relationship with. But it turned into quite a big thing. And the comparison I wanted to make was, because we spoke about it a month ago, about that lady who's gone and slept with 1,000 men. We're living in a world where things like that getting celebrated, and a man who's trying to respect a woman by not wanting to touch her because he's not related to her, he's not married to her, etc., he's been, criticised.
Yeah, well,
what's happening to the world?
Well, it's mad, isn't it? It's like I saw a bit of social media the other day. I think they call him Simon Squibb or something like that. He goes around making people. He's quite an interesting fella, and
I watch him.
Nobody wants to do it, and he's walking past the vape shops, and he's saying, "What's going on? These vape shops outside kids' schools? What you're doing? You're peddling death to kids, which they are." And just the other day, obviously driving on the viaduct where we are, pulled up a car outside at me, mommy in the car, about probably 30 odd years old, on a vape, daughter 13 years old, vaping in the passenger seat, and you just think, what's going through your mind? Why on earth would you be giving your 13-year-old kid, because she could have been 13, a vape? It's going to 10 years time, 15 years time, that's an health problem, that. So what I think to myself when I see all this stuff going on is, giving out the wrong signals. It's down to the parents. You've got to set the example, and if you can keep kids within the bounds, you're going to end up with a better society. But unfortunately, there's no limits there, is there? People are, it's a free-for-all, and the only thing you can do is keep to your own morals, can't you? That's all you can do. People are going to go off and do their own thing and be chaotic in that way. So, I think the woman doing the interview should have actually just read up on it and thought, done a bit more research and thought, I'm not even going to do that, and it wouldn't have turned into anything, would it? You know, it's quite within his rights to do that. If he don't want to be touching another woman, it's fine, isn't it? That's his religion.
Yeah, it was interesting, and also we saw Pep Guardiola, you know, speak out about, you know, what's going on in the Middle East as well. You know, we've seen even in the last 24 hours, we've got Israel bloody launching attacks on Iran. Now the whole world's like coming to a bloody, I don't know, I feel like we're heading towards a World War III.
Well, it's always, you know, there's always been trouble in that. You've only got to look back through history. When has there not been trouble in them areas? It's always been that way. I don't know a lot about it. My dad used to read a lot on it, but it's all to do with tribal, innit? It's all to do with, you know, killings. But you get that in Africa with Christians. You get everything. It's like people trying to put their standpoint on people who don't want to have it. And realistically, people should just mind their own business and keep to themselves. That's what they should do. They shouldn't be trying to put religion on anybody. It's your own choice what you want to do.
Yeah, I think I urge anyone to watch the Louis Theroux documentary on BBC iPlayer, which is made quite independently. Kind of gives you a really good, clear picture of what's going on in that part of the world. But yeah, I always like to talk about some other random stuff as well. Boxing wise, I want to start with initially talking about, you know, the sad loss of James Cook, a fighter that you guys have had some interaction with in the gym. I know he's fought some of your fighters, an M.B.E guy that was celebrated for, you know, reducing crime in his area in Hackney, did a lot of community work, and you saw how people, you know, spoke up about his death. I think they're doing a memorial for him this Sunday as well in London. So any experiences with James Cook, Dom?
The first time I ever saw James Cook, he came to Sheffield to fight Harold Graham, and I just remember a tall, big black guy, muscular, very confident, a lot taller than Harold. I thought, oh, he's going to be an handful. This kid, wiry, strong. And, you know, Harold Graham beat him about 6 or 7 rounds. He had to be on the ball, Harold Graham, and be very smart, because James was tough, he could punch. And he beat some good kids. He actually beat Michael Watson over 8 rounds, believe it or not. And he beat Mark Kahler. That's how good he was. And obviously, Michael Watson went on to bigger and better things. That might have been for the Commonwealth title. So from that point, he was in boxing in Sheffield, and then I think my dad went into the change room, had a word afterwards and said, you know, it's not your time at the minute. Harold Graham's, you know, kind of a one-off, but your time will come. And it did. I think he became British, Commonwealth, European champion, James Cook. Tough fighter, well-respected man. And every time I used to go down to London, Bethnal Green, all the London shows, James would be there with some fighter. We'd always have a laugh and a joke, always get on with him. And then sometimes when we were abroad, I can remember one trip to Denmark, we both had some fighters on, and we were on this coach to the venue, and this fighter he'd only trained him for a month or 2. He was a bit of a loudmouth, full of confidence, you know, bragging off what he was going to do. And James Cook's rolling his eyebrows. Anyway, he got to stop this kid. And on this way back, James Cook just hammered him. You know, you're talking big, you couldn't back it up. You know, he give it this kid. I don't think the kid ever boxed again. But James didn't take any prisoners. You know, he was a tough man. And you know, where he was in Brixton that way, he was well respected in the community. Did a lot of community work with the kids, tried to educate the kids, you know, reduce violence and stuff, got him into the gym. So, you know, it's a bit sad really, because he was a very, you know, popular and strong community figure down there. So it's sad to see him go.
Yeah, he was part of Anthony Yard's training team recently as well. Did some good work with him. So yeah, sad loss for boxing. And if anybody wants to reach out for this memorial, I think it is this Sunday, reach out to Spencer Fearon. I think he's involved. And then elsewhere, moving on, Dom, a lot's happening in the boxing world. I'm just going to mention our sponsors at Boxraw have just launched boxing boots. They've been working on these for a long time to launch their equipment range. They've just released them.
What are they, boxing what?
Boxing boots.
Right, well, I'll have a pair because I need a pair.
Do you wear boots?
Well, I usually wear like flat sole trainers, but I should wear boxing boots. And if Boxraw have got some, I'll have some on. Probably about an 8.5.
8.5. And do you wear white or black?
Black. You know, like Mike Tyson, no socks.
Right, I'll get you some black boxing boots from Boxraw. But how important are boxing boots, Dom? Because we see so many brands with so many different styles.
Well, you're going to look at the famous case. I think it was David A when he boxed Klitschko in a pair of running shoes. I think, if I remember rightly.
He did, yeah. And
then he took and I'm sure he did that so he could get him off quickly at the end of the fight, just to show everybody his little broken little toe, which I thought was hilarious. But which I suppose if it were boxing boots, it'd have took a lot longer. But you know, there's David walking around the ring with his shoe in his hand, telling everybody about his little toe. You know, for the want of a nail, the battle was lost, so to speak. But yeah, you should wear boxing boots. You need to be flat to the ground. You need to be, you know, be able to move. You need to be planted, and they don't need to be a lot of sole on them. It's got to be, you know, sturdy. So they are important, and it's surprising how many fighters, how many pairs of boots they go through till they find the right pair. And when they find them, you know, they don't let go of them.
Indeed, I'll get you a pair and you can review them firsthand. Also, on the day of Usyk Dubois Gold Star, I've got an event called Box Fest. They did it last time when I think Dubois fought AJ. They had all these boxers arrive. You know, they had Usyk, Fury. A lot of fighters turned up on the day at the Box Park. Tickets are available on the Gold Star website. I thought I'd just give.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Give them a little push. So, talking boxing first, what I want to talk to you about is Adam Azim was supposed to fight on the Barnsley show the other week. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I saw it. He was actually going to box a nobody kind of thing, and he said, "Look, I'm ready. I'll fight anybody." And then somebody's talking about, well, it's just a contract what's got to be fulfilled, and I guess he didn't box.
No, the reason he didn't box was because his opponent on fight day, apparently the Mexican board contacted the British boxing board and told them that this fighter's be using a sauna to make weight. To my knowledge, there's no video evidence. I think he's just mentioned it or whatever. But either way, the British boxing board pulled him out literally 3-4 hours before.
Pulled who out?
The Mexican fighter.
Right, did he weigh in?
He weighed in, made weight.
That's all right then. So
that was the day before.
So what happened there is that the Mexican fighter will have probably got paid. Adam Azim has technically fought, but hasn't fought, and that's his contract done, and he's been paid. So maybe it weren't the Mexicans who phoned up the board. Maybe it was just somebody with a Mexican accent.
Okay, but the interesting part in that is
that's a conspiracy theory, by the way.
Okay, I don't know if you're trying to allude to any truth. Is that something you've heard or?
No, I didn't hear about that, but the stranger things have happened in boxing.
Okay,
you know, I mean, people ringing into the board anonymously. But I remember one time we had a fighter in. Well, it wasn't our fighter; it was a fighter we trained years ago. Daniel Teasdale. He was going to be the next Nazim Hamid. Unfortunately, it got to his head before he actually got there. But he boxed in Barnsley, and. Something was going off with him. I don't know if he'd upset somebody or whatever. But they phoned, it might have been Barnsley Metrodome, and they phoned up bomb scare, and I think they cancelled the fight. So that's, you know, that was an anonymous thing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, the reason I mention it is because the British Boxing Board had video evidence of Chris Eubank Jr. clearly struggling to make weight.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a lot of debate online that the reason they didn't stop that was because the money that was involved, and obviously the percentages they make out of that fight compared to what Adam Azim versus some Mexican in Barnsley was going to make would have been a lot different. So do you think that would play a factor?
Well, you think there's a lot of ways you can actually look at that with Chris Eubank because it's shown he's making the weight, and it's shown that he's sweating, but who knows how much weight he's losing? How different is going in a steam or a sauna? How different is that to putting on a sweatsuit and going for a run? It's no different. It's the same. It's just the same. In fact, it's probably safer sitting in a steam room or a sauna than actually walking around in a sweatsuit and running, because you're being active and then you're dehydrating at the same time. But when you're sat in a sauna or steam, you're just actually sat and you're sweating out. So I would imagine the board haven't done anything simply for the fact that it could be for sure. Who knows? You can't say, well, look, I've got on the scales, I've dropped 5 pounds, I've dropped 7 pounds, I've dropped, you know, is his electrolyte balance dangerously low? What's his blood pressure like? There's none of these readings. So, and these are all the factors what determine how well you're going to be from dehydrating yourself within a certain limit. So there's no hard, solid proof, is there? You know, in this day of social media, it could just be a stunt.
Okay, let's see what happens next for Adam Azim. Obviously, Ben Shalom, according to rumours that he doesn't have a Sky deal anymore, but he's saying that he's got some big news coming, and it's the Daily Mail article is saying it's not fact. So
what's not a fact?
The Daily Mail article suggested that the Sky have ended the exclusive deal. Well, it's ended anyway, it's coming to an end, and they don't plan to go exclusive with any promoter. They're looking to reach out to different promoters, and basically where you've got a bid to put a show on there. So what do you think the future holds for Ben Shalom?
I don't know. We've got an interview what's unpublished, haven't we, somewhere from the last time we spoke. We got a bit too fiery. I'm sure viewers would love to see that one because there's a good prediction on that one. But I don't think that'll ever see the light of day, will it? That's a bit of clickbait for you. And I don't think that the crew at Box are very pleased with me, were they? But Listen, he found himself in a very difficult position, Ben Shalom, after, the people who've already been in touch with, running Sky like Eddie, and when they leave, they take the fighters. And unless you spend the time, and I don't think Ben did, maybe he didn't have the funds, maybe he didn't have the know-how, maybe he didn't have the connections. You've got to start building up the fighters. You've got to build up your team of fighters. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to be precise. And I just don't think he built up enough of a stable to keep it going, enough attractive fighters. It takes a lot of hard work to do that. You've got to be in touch with a lot of gyms on the ground. You've got to be bringing prospects through. It might be 10 fights. We had a couple of kids who could have easily got onto Sky at the beginning of the deal, and they could have been brought through and done really well, but we never got a look in. But that's a personal choice from Ben. But unfortunately in boxing, you've got to work with everybody if you want to be successful. And if you've got issues or agendas with people and gyms and fighters, you're not going to get very far, are you? So it's probably no surprise that Ben's ended up where he has because of all the circumstances. Whether he's got anything up his sleeve, who knows? But like I say, it'll be sad if we don't see boxing on Sky Sports, because it should have been such a great platform for fights and boxing in the past.
I agree 100%. Also worth mentioning, Callum Simpson, it's mad because locally he's literally like a superstar. 15,000 people at Barnsley Stadium. I don't know if you've seen the fight.
Yeah, I saw it. I was surprised, to be honest, because the shots he got hit with didn't look like anything shots.
That Italian was a big puncher.
It don't really matter
18
whether
knockouts in 21.
Yeah, maybe so, but to get caught that quick, if you're going to fight a kid who's a known puncher, and I've had Callum Simpson down here, he's a good fighter. In fact, I bumped into his dad in Costa a couple of months back, and he actually asked to have a photo with me. I said, well, can I have a photo with you? But a nice fella, his dad. And Callum's a good fighter. We've had him down here, sparring Willie Hutchinson, Liam Williams, a few other fighters. Very, very good, few years back. But I was surprised how quickly he got caught. He kind of rushed in. And if you're going to fight a puncher, you don't do that. You stand back, you know that the shots are coming, you pick them off. But it's one of the things about boxing in your hometown. You put so much pressure on yourself. Kell Brook loved boxing in Sheffield. Johnny Nelson hated boxing in Sheffield. Nazim Hamid loved boxing in Sheffield. Some people don't do well in the hometown because they feel too much pressure. Ricky Hatton, fantastic in Manchester when he used to box. He was absolutely unbeatable. Cole Froch in Nottingham, unbeatable. There's some of the fights that Cole Froch win down there, geez. And but with Callum, it's almost like he hasn't come from nowhere, because he's been grinding in the background. But it's a lot of pressure that to be in your hometown. And Barnsley's not massive. Everybody's come out to see you. Imagine if you get beat. You can't walk around that place. Everybody's going to be pointing the finger and highlighting where it all went wrong. But he picked himself up well. He got put down. He jumped up a bit too quick for me. Jumped up quickly, too quick. Should have stayed on his knee. Took his breath. Got a breath in.
For the second knockdown, I think, not the first one.
What?
Yeah, the second time he was dropped, he did stay down, I think.
But the thing is, the most important one to recover from is the first one. Maybe because he jumped up too quick, he wasn't ready. Got caught the second time, and it's something. We remember we've had a talk about. I think when Adam Booth was teaching David A how to recover from knockdowns, and they're doing a lot of spinning, jumping off the floor. You've got to be prepared for that kind of stuff, because it's surprising how many people don't know. The immediate reaction is to jump up and say, "I'm all right, I'm fine," but that can be a dangerous place to be, because your head's not probably cleared. So a bit of a novice mistake there, but I'm sure he'll learn from that. And it was a tough fight, and I'm glad he came through it, because it was a big event in Barnsley. You don't ever really get big shows in Barnsley. You get a fighter up there, Josh Whaley's running little shows, great Metrodome. But to have one at the football pitch, which is just across from the Metrodome, it's a good thing to be happening. It's keeping boxing in Yorkshire, big shows and events, and hopefully he's going to bring some more shows to that area. And I think regardless of whether he's with boxers, somebody will snap him up, whether it's Eddie, Frank, whatever, or they do a deal. I'm sure that he's an exciting fighter, so I don't think he'll be ever short of work. And the main thing, he's got a massive fan base, which always helps. Promoters are always looking for that.
Yep. 240,000 people live in Barnsley, and 15,000 of them turned up to watch him fight. Quite a good effort, that. Yeah. Well done to Callum Simpson. The next thing I want to speak to you about is Opetaia at the weekend. I don't know if you saw what he did to his opponent with that right hook. Shattered his jaw in two places. It was another Italian opponent, funnily enough. But it was a bit weird, even though he was also a cruiserweight, but he weighed in 88 kilos and Jai was like 90 something. Massive weight difference. Obviously.
Yeah, I look at them fights and I just think, well, it's probably a waste of time. If I'm being honest, it's like, what's the point of that? It's not really competitive, is it? And then somebody gets damaged that bad, it just highlights it even more that it's probably a mismatch.
But he was high up in the IBF rankings, and IBF don't give defences to anyone.
No, but it was a voluntary defence, weren't it?
I believe so.
Yeah,
I'll have to double check.
Yes, it won't have been a mandatory, but
just check.
Like I say, you can only fight who's in front of you, and boxers are going to box anybody.
Similar comparisons to Kell Brook fighting them Canadians back in.
Yeah, but you know,
they were mismatches, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, well, whichever way is that they were voluntary defences, and it wasn't me making the matches. You know what I mean? I didn't pick the fights for Kell Brook. It was his matchroom who did it. So you know, your fight who's in front of you. Like I say, that's how it is. You know, not only did he box him, he boxed Frankie Gavin 6 rounds. You know, beat Frankie Gavin. So you know, but on the flip side to that, he still went in with the big names, and Crawford, Spence, you know, Golovkin. So it's not, you know, it's not the boxer looking for the easy fights, is it? You know, Itauma's probably not looking for the easy fights either.
No, I think from my understanding, he can't get the Ramirez fight because they don't want it. So they had a big gap, so they've just had to keep busy.
Keep busy, yeah.
Next thing I want to speak to you about, Dom, is the Fabio Wardley. I forgot, who did you compare him to again from the white collar scene?
Well,
what was the name you mentioned?
Oh, what do they call him there? Big Londoner fellow, weren't it?
He only went and did it again. Crazy power. Lost every single round. I think all the judges, bar one, might have given him 2 rounds. So he was going to lose unanimous on the cards. Going into, I think it was round 10 or 11, either way. Bang, right hand, lights out. And
fantastic shot. And I like watching that fight. You know, I did watch that fight. And you could just, he seemed a bit out of sorts, to be honest, Fabio Wardley. Like he was a bit confused with himself because he started giving out some negative vibes, like he just couldn't get into the swing of what he was doing. But he stuck with it and stuck with it and stuck with it. And, you know, being that 4 down, he never really packed in, did he? He never switched off. He never, like, kind of thought, well, I'm getting beat here. He didn't go into any desperate measures. He just took his time, and really let that kid get overconfident. And he'd obviously seen that shot coming before where I think he overreaches with a backhand or whatever. And Fabio Wardley just dips out slightly outside, and as the kid's moving onto it, the impact of him throwing the shot and the kid moving onto it just toppled him over. And it was only a short movement shot kind of thing, but it did the damage, and, you know, fair play to him. But he's had a lot of hard fights lately, Fabio Wardley. He's like, you know, his first fight with Fraser Clark was an hard fight. That fight was an hard fight. You ain't got a lot of them fights in your career, and he probably don't want to be either, so he needs to make his money the way he fights, make his money quick.
Is he the Wilder of the new generation?
No, I think he's better than Wilder. Do you know what I mean? Wilder's, I don't think he would. I think Fabio Wardley is a lot better than Wilder. A lot better. Got more dimensions to him. Deontay Wilder was one-dimensional. Bomb squad, big right hand, big left hook. You know, not fantastic boxing ability, but physically a big fella, strong and game. But I think Fabio Wardley is a better boxer, a better fighter, to be honest.
What are we saying about the count? Because there was some controversy about the count. The referee counted to 9, and he was kind of between.
Well, the thing is with the count is it's like I used to be a timekeeper. You see, what people probably don't realise, and the referee determines when the count starts. The timekeeper the count is on every second, so you're supposed to count on every second, but the count's not really supposed to start until the opponent's in the neutral corner. Do you understand? He's got to really go to the neutral corner, and the referee determines whether it's a knockdown or not, and he can wave it off if you don't think it's a knockdown, and then he has to count. But what people don't realise is you have a timekeeper at the side of the ring, giving you the indication with his arm on the second. So he'll be looking at the clock and going like that, and the referee will look and he'll pick up the count where he thinks suitable. You understand?
So would he not pick it up where he's like, say, the timekeeper's going 3, would the referee jump in there?
Yeah, if the referee, so he'll count it out, and what generally happens is he'll go down. As soon as he touches, the timekeeper will go 1, 2, and then the referee will look and he'll start counting. Do you understand? But whether the rules have changed or not, I don't know. But if you imagine that you drop somebody and you stood over them, some referees won't count you. They'll say, get back to the neutral corner. That's what the rule is. As soon as you knock somebody down as a fighter, you have to go to the neutral corner. So it's really the referee's discretion whether he starts the count or not.
All right.
So, understand? So you can have all this controversy about it, but you can look into rules with a board of control. But it's the referee who controls the fight, and he determines if that fighter's not stood back and obeying by the rules when he's dropped a fighter. The referee, I think, is quite within his right not to start the count.
So if the referee wanted to say the timekeeper's on 3-4, the referee could just wait till he goes into the neutral corner, then say 1.
Yeah, and the referee will probably do that and indicate where it's going to be.
Okay, interesting. The other thing I want to talk to you about that particular fight, I know we mentioned him the other week, Terry from the Highfield podcast. He's coming out with a lot of interesting opinions. And
Terry from Highfield podcast. Who's Terry from who's this fella?
Terry Chapadama. We mentioned him the other week.
Did we?
I forgot what we talked about the other week, but he comes out with some interesting viewpoints.
Does he? Some interesting statistics.
Yeah, so this is what he said. There's a theme when it comes to Ben Davison. His key wins come when his fighters have natural power. It's unusual for his boxers to outbox top-level competition. How many rounds do his fighters win? So is he the tactical mastermind that the media claim? So obviously that's what he said, but obviously straight away, top of my head, he's obviously referring to Lee Wood's win against Warrington and obviously Fabio's recent win, but obviously the Conlon fight as well. So top of my head, I'm thinking Shabazz Massoud went away and he was a massive underdog and completely outboxed Liam Davison. So kind of obviously a counteract to that. So what do you think of that statement?
I just think it's it's just a silly comment really. Whether Ben Davis is a tactical mastermind or in, it's what you put. It's conveying it to your fighter what he needs to do, and you look at the weak points of the opponent, you look at the strong points of the opponent, and you adapt the plan and say, look, with this kid, you've got to do it this way for so many rounds. He might start flagging, then you're going to do this, and it's how well you can, convey to the fighter what the plan needs to be, and he's got to be in agreement with that. He's got to kind of stick to it because, there's been loads of fights in the past where there's been upsets purely because, the fighter's done something, or the underdog's done something that nobody expected and boxed a clever fight. Look at Barrera against Naz. So, I always remember when Liam Williams boxed Mark Efron, he moved up from light middleweight to middleweight, and everybody thought it was a foregone conclusion because Mark Efron was banging everybody out. And the way that Liam Williams boxed, it was probably going to be an easy fight if they met head to head. But the plan was always for Liam Williams to do what he didn't really do and go out and box till it's the point where he could really put the pressure on. That's what he did, and he stuck to the plan. But I remember him coming back after about round 5 saying, I can knock him out. And I said, yeah, you probably can, but that's not the plan. Wait. I said, and by the time, Liam Williams did stop him, he could have blown on him and he fell over, so to speak. So it's regardless of what the podcast is saying, obviously Ben's successful in what he's doing, whichever way he does it, whether he's a tactical mastermind or not. If he's getting more wins and more fighters than anybody else, then he's making a living and he's doing his job, innit?
Yeah, I'm going to get an interview with Terry soon. I just want to do it face to face because, like I said, he does come out with interesting viewpoints, which are always worth a discussion. Next, I want to speak to you about is Moses Itauma, Dillian Whyte, just announced yesterday. Not many people saw this coming. It's obviously a fight that everyone thought Dillian was waiting for, the Anthony Joshua fight, but bang, he's fighting 20-year-old Moses Itauma. What do you make of it?
Well, to be honest, this is where we'd have to stop the interview because I had a message from Dillian Whyte last time, we talked about him, and he said, keep my name out of your interviews. So I don't really want to go any further. Yeah, so if you want to take it any further, then it's all going to be on you, innit? So make your mind up. What do you want to do?
Well, we're just talking about the fight.
Well, I know, but like I said, we can't really bring up Dillian Whyte.
What do you think of the fight itself? Like we saw Dillian recently, he had a bit of a comeback. He's been slightly inactive.
So before we go any further, you're prepared to move forward with talking about Dillian Whyte on the podcast, yeah? In case we get any comebacks.
Just want your opinion on the fight.
Because I don't want you rolling up at this fight and him having you by the scruff of the neck.